Have you ever been on a website, scrolling through a huge list of quotes, names or data and thought, I wish I could just grab all of this automatically, instead of copying it one by one? Well, that's exactly what web scraping lets you do. And today, we're going to learn how to use a Python library called BeautifulSoup. So what is BeautifulSoup? In plain English, it's a tool that reads the code behind a web page and lets you pull out exactly the pieces you want. Think of a web page like a magazine. BeautifulSoup is like a highlighter that lets you mark just the quotes, just the author names, or just the tags, whatever you're after. The best part, you don't need to be an expert. If you know basic Python, variables, loops, print statements, you're completely ready for this. We're going to go slow, explain every single line, and by the end of this video, you'll be pulling real data off a real website and saving it to a file. Alright, let's get into it. Before we install anything, let's set up a virtual environment. Think of it like a clean, separate workspace just for this project, so the libraries we install here don't interfere with anything else on your computer. First, let's install pipenv. Then, navigate to your project folder and run this command. That's it, one command. It creates the virtual environment and activates it at the same time. You'll see your terminal change, which means you're now inside the environment and ready to go. Now, let's get another thing installed. Open your terminal and type pip install requests. What's requests? It's a Python library that lets your code fetch a web page. Kind of like telling Python, go open this URL for me and bring back whatever you find. That's it. We're not installing BeautifulSoup yet. There's a reason for that, and you're about to see why. Alright, let's write a quick script. We are going to try fetching a website using just requests, with no extra setup. Simple enough. We are telling Python, go to this URL, grab the content, and print it out. Let's run it. Okay, you'll see a massive wall of HTML printed out. The data is in there somewhere, but is basically unreadable. You'd have to dig through hundreds of lines just to find one author's name. We need something better. When your browser visits a website, it sends a small label called a user agent, basically saying, I'm Google Chrome on a Mac. A plain Python script doesn't send that, so some websites block it immediately. BeautifulSoup, combined with adding that label to our request, fixes both problems. It makes us look like a real browser, and it organizes that messy HTML into something we can actually search through. Let's set that up. Time to install BeautifulSoup in your terminal with this command. Note that it's BeautifulSoup 4 with a 4 at the end. That's just how the package is named. Now, here are our imports. And this time, we're adding a headers dictionary. Now, you might be looking at Mozilla 5.0 and thinking, what is that? It's actually a browser signature. When a real browser, like Chrome or Firefox, visits a website, it sends this string to identify itself. Mozilla 5.0 is the base signature that almost every modern browser uses. Chrome, Firefox, Safari, they all start with it. So, by adding this to our request, we are telling the website, hey, I'm a normal browser, not a Python script. Most websites will see this and let us through. If you're curious, a full real user agent string actually looks like this. But for our tutorial today, the short version works perfectly fine. Let's continue the code and confirm if everything is working. If you see 200 printed, that means success. Status code 200 is the web's way of saying everything is fine and you're in. Alright, let's start scraping. This is the main part of the video. We're going to scrape real quotes, author names, and tags from quotes.to scrape.com. This site was built specifically for practicing web scraping, so it's completely safe and legal to use here. First, we pass the HTML into BeautifulSoup with this command. Response.txt is the raw HTML of the page, all the code that makes the website. And HTML.parser is telling BeautifulSoup which tool to use to read that code. The good news, it's built into Python, no extra install needed. Now, let's find the quotes. If you right-click and hit Inspect, you'll see each quote lives inside a div with the class of quote. So we grab them all like this. The find_all variable searches through the entire HTML and returns every element that matches. Now quotes is a list, and let's loop through it. This just means go through each quote one by one and do the following. We're looking inside each quote block for a span class equals dark red with the class text, and grabbing the text inside it. That's the quote itself. Same idea. Find a small tag with the class author. We include the tag name small to be more specific because a class name alone isn't always unique on a page. That gives us the author's name. Here we create an empty list called tags, then loop through all the tag links inside each quote and add each one to that list. And finally, we print everything out. The \n just adds a blank line between each quote, so the output is easy to read. And join tags joins all the tags into one clean string separated by commas. Let's run it. Look at that. Real quotes, real authors, real tags, all pulled automatically. Now, let's save this data to a CSV file so you can open it in Excel or Google Sheets. First, import the CSV. Next, write this command. This line opens a new file called quotes.csv. The W means we're writing to it, creating it fresh. New line prevents extra blank lines appearing between rows, and encoding equals UTF-8 makes sure special characters like apostrophes or accented letters don't break anything. The writer variable creates a CSV writer. Think of it as the pen that writes into our file. Writer.quotes writes our header row. The column names at the top of the spreadsheet. The text, author, and tags we already extracted above. The parsing code in the middle is exactly the same as before. We're just wrapping it inside the file writer now. No need to change anything there. Run it and you'll see a quotes.csv file appear in your project folder. Open it, all your quotes are right there. Before we wrap up, let's talk about the errors you will almost definitely run into. And I mean, this happens to everyone. It's completely normal, and once you know what they are, you'll fix them in seconds. We will have a new errors.py file for that. Error 1. NoneType error. Let me show you this live. Watch what happens when I use the wrong class name. See that? Attribute error. NoneType. Object has no attribute text. BeautifulSoup returned none because it found nothing. And then .text on none crashes. The fix is simple. Let's see. Error 2. Empty results. Similar idea, but this time with find_all. Watch. It just returns an empty list. No crash, but no data either. This means a wrong class name or tag. Note that during inspection, copy the exact class name carefully. One typo is all it takes. Error 3. Connection timeout. This one I can't show you live because our practice site is too fast and reliable, which is a good thing. But in the real world, when you're scraping slower or larger websites, timeouts will happen. Here's the code you'll need when they do. Just keep it handy. That's it for errors. 3 simple fixes that'll cover the vast majority of what you'll face as a beginner. Before we finish, a few important things about scraping responsibly. First, always check robots.txt. Go to any website and add /robots.txt at the end of the URL. Now, let's talk about how to be polite when scraping multiple pages. 1 second between requests is polite. You're not hammering the server all at once. Third, always read the terms of service of any site before scraping it seriously. Some sites explicitly say no scraping. Better to check than to get blocked or in trouble. And that's a wrap. Let's do a quick recap of what we covered today. We started with a problem. A plain request call with no setup, messy, unreadable HTML, and no way to extract anything useful. Then we installed BeautifulSoup, added a user agent header to look like a real browser, and suddenly everything worked cleanly. We scraped real quotes, authors, and tags from a live website, handled some common errors you'll run into, and talked about scraping responsibly with robots.txt, delays, and terms of service. That's a lot for one video, and you did it all from scratch. From here, you can scrape news headlines, job postings, sports stats, product listings, anything publicly visible on the web. BeautifulSoup is your starting point for all of it. If this helped, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me what you're planning to scrape first. See you in the next one.